Hello and welcome. Today's lesson is going to be on evaluating functions using function notation, and this is going to be part one of the lesson. The objective of today's lesson is to evaluate functions using function notation given an equation. So here's some vocabularies for this lesson. Function notation. If we notice, we used this before. This is what is called function notation. This is f of x. And f of x is equals this expression right here. So this whole thing here is an equation, okay? So this side here is the expression, and because it has an equal sign, this is called an equation, okay? And so function notation is whenever we use these symbols here. Okay, to evaluate a function is to find the value of the expression. So find this expression right here when a variable is replaced by a given number. So this here is the variable x, okay? The reason why it's called variable is because it can vary. So I can replace the x with a number, okay? So when I evaluate a function I'm going to change this x to a different value. And then I'm going to plug it in into this expression, and that will give me a new value for this expression. Okay, so we're going to see this later, okay, in a few seconds, okay? But evaluate is we're going to have a number here, and we're going to plug it in and evaluate what the value of that function is. Okay, input. Input is the value that is put into a function in order to evaluate the function. So that's going to be the number that we're going to put there. And output is going to be the result. Once we plug it in that number there, we're going to see what the output is. So let's take a look here. Let's suppose I have this example here. I have this function, f of x equals 3x minus 6. And I'm asked to evaluate for f of 7. So if you notice, I'm giving the input 7. And this 7 is the x value. So in other words, instead of x, I'm going to replace with 7. So I'm going to put 3 times 7 minus 6, which is 21 minus 6, which gives me 15. So let's try this one right here, okay? So right here I have the same expression, and now, but this time I'm going to evaluate for f of 4. So basically, I copy, but when I get to x, I put a 4. And then I can calculate this. 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. So that's the answer of my new function. And in this side, you can even write f of 4 equals that. F of 4 equals that. So we found that the function when x equals 4 equals 6. So let's try another one. So let's say I have the same function, but now I'm going to change to negative 4. So basically, I'm finding the function when x equals negative 4. So I copy the 3. When I get to the x, I put parentheses, and I replace x with negative 4 minus 6. So now I have f of negative 4. Then 3 times 4, negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 12 minus 6 is negative 18. So that's the answer for my function right there. Now let me demonstrate this using the calculator. So in this class, we're going to use the TI-84. So basically, I'm going to plug it in 3 parentheses 4 close parentheses minus 6. So if you notice, I'm copying exactly what I have there. So I press enter and I get my answer, which is 6. And then for the next one, I'm going to enter the same thing. And so what I can do is I press second, enter, and I pull back the previous input that I put. And what I'm going to change is I'm going to change that 4 to a negative 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press second, insert, because I'm going to insert a negative. And so therefore I have negative 4. So now my expression is correct. So I get negative 18. So let's try it for the next one. So here I have a new function with input negative 3. So f of negative 3. So what I'm going to do is the function of negative 3. I'm going to write negative 2, negative 3, square minus 1. Okay, and then I do f of negative 3. So this will be negative 2, parenthesis, negative 3, close parenthesis, and then we're going to do the square here. So the square button is right here, okay, second power. And then we're going to do minus 1. So minus 1. Please notice when I'm using negatives in the beginning of expression or negative number inside a parenthesis, I use this negative right here. But when I do minus, I press this button right here. Okay, very good. So now I double check that I copy exactly what I have on my paper, and then I press enter, and my answer is negative 19. So there you go, is the answer for this. All right, let's try the next one. The next one I have 2/3, so 2 divided by 3. So please notice 2 over 3, you write it 2/3. Then you're going to open parentheses, and in fact, let me write it down on the paper first. I have f of 9 equals 2/3 parentheses, and instead of x, I'm going to put 9 minus 6, open parentheses, 9. If you notice, I'm just replacing the x with parentheses and the number that they gave me in the function. All right, so now I'm just entering square minus 6 parentheses 9. So I double check that I copied correctly what I wrote on my paper, and that is correct. So now I'm going to press enter, and the answer is f of 9 equals 0. Okay, let's go on to the next one. The next one says, given g of x equals negative x squared minus 2x plus 9, what is the range of the function if the domain is negative 2, 0, and 4? So basically what this problem is asking is to calculate or evaluate the function, and by the way, the function is not f, the function is g. So g of negative 2, okay? And once we evaluate that, we're going to evaluate g of 0, and then we're going to evaluate g of 4. Okay, so basically I'm going to copy the function, but instead of x, I'm going to put parentheses and replace inside the parentheses with negative 2, minus 2, negative 2, plus 9. Here I'm going to do negative 0 square minus 2, 0, plus 9. And here will be parentheses negative 4 square minus 2 parentheses 4 plus 9. Now what I can do is put this in the calculator. So let's go ahead and go to the calculator, and we're going to put negative parentheses negative 2 close parentheses, and I can press square, but I also want to show you that you can also put to the second power by pressing this button and then pressing square. Once you finish the 2, you press the arrow. All right, let's continue copying. So we have minus 2, open parenthesis, negative 2, close parenthesis, plus 9. So negative 2 squared minus 2, negative 2, plus 9. I double check that is correct. I press enter, and I get 8, 9. Now, if you notice, the next one is pretty much the same thing, except instead of -2, I'm replacing with a 0. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to recall my previous command on the calculator by pressing second, enter. I'm going to move my cursor over to the -2. I'm going to change that to a 0. I want to delete that 2, so I'm going to press this button that says delete. And I'm going to move my cursor over and press 0. And I want to delete that extra 2. And then I move it across. And if you notice, I double check. This is exactly what I want to write. So then I got a 9 as well. Now, let's do the same thing. Second, enter. And please remember, you can always rewrite the whole thing, but this command kind of is like a shortcut, okay? So all you have to do is replace the 0 and replace this with the 4, and we get -15. So if you notice, the question was, given this function g of x, what is the range? What is the value of g of x? What's the value of y? Remember, y or g of x, okay? So we found out that the range is, well, the smallest number is -15, and the biggest number is 9. And remember, we don't have to repeat the 9 if the number repeats, so that's going to be my range. These questions are very, very important because always, every year, there is a question like that on the STAR test. And if you know how to use the calculator, this problem can take less than a minute into solving it. So make sure that you practice using the calculator. Okay, so let's try this problem here from the STAR 2018. If you notice, we have this function here. What is the value of f16? First thing I want you to do is write down the function that you want to find. So f of 16, this would be 1/3 4 minus, replace the x with a parenthesis. I'm going to put the 16 and then raised to the square. So if you notice, there are 2 parentheses here that we are putting in to be ready for the calculator. Now we're going to go to the calculator. 1 divided by 3 parenthesis 4 minus open parenthesis 16. Okay, I'm going to close the parenthesis again, and then I'm going to raise to the square. So if you notice, that's exactly what's on my paper. I press enter, and voila, that's my answer. F of 16 equals 48. So please notice that sometimes this question might come in the beginning of the test, the middle of the test, at the end of the test. There's one particular year that this type of question was question 54 on the STAR test, and a lot of students didn't get it right, not because they did not know how to do it, because it was at the end of the test, and at the end of the test, they were so tired that they said, I'm just going to guess. But please know that these are questions that happens every year, and as I demonstrated, if you just write it down and then double check that you wrote it correctly in the calculator can give you the answer in less than a minute. Now, what if you don't have a calculator like this at home? That's okay, because there is an app that you can download onto your phone, and that way you can practice at home, and then in class you can use the calculators that we provide. So here I'm going to show you the application. The app is called Calculator. So if you search it up on your iPhone or your Android phone, here I have my Android phone, so I'm going to show on my Android. Okay, so basically when I turn it on, it looks like this. So as you can see, the calculator is very similar to our calculator here. Okay, so let me move the calculator a little bit closer here so you can compare. So if you notice, it has all the same buttons here. So this is would be for home if you don't have a TI-84 or a calculator home. And the reason why I like this one because it mimics what we're doing in class. Okay, so if you notice right here, we did this problem right here, 1/3. So we're going to do the same thing, 1 divided by 3. And then we put parentheses, 4 minus parentheses 16, close parentheses, and close parenthesis again, and square. Okay, and we press enter, we get 48. Please notice also that they have the negative sign right there, just like your calculator right here. That's why I like this app, and I recommend this app so that you can have an app in your phone, and the calculator here is cool. So this was the lesson for today. I hope this lesson was helpful. I showed you how to evaluate functions using function notation using the TI-84. I also showed you some options regarding having the calculator home so that you can practice and do your assignments